And we are going to see if... Okay, handshake. It is showtime, folks. And what is Hikaru going to open with? And he picks up the e-pawn. And we'll see whether Fabiano does the same. And he absolutely does.
Okay, so e4, which Nakamura has been relying on a lot this tournament. And Fabiano has delved into the Sicilian of late. Of course, he released a very popular opening course on a branch of the Spanish recently. So I'm interested to see, okay, it's the Petrov defense, not any Spanish sidelines there. And dear Nakamura brings out his other knight, not allowing any main lines. It's the 4 knights variation, the 4 knights game. And it's the 4 knights Scotch after this pawn push in the center, known as a very solid, whisper it quietly, drawish line that Nakamura is employing here.
It does have a touch of venom, though. But maybe not at this level.
Not in recent times, unfortunately. Yeah. Lots of forcing variations here.
Yes, and I do remember that in Norway chess, Ari Antari used this particular variation to almost force a draw against Magnus Carlsen. He later apologized to the to the crowd and said, "I'm sorry, but you know what to do when you're facing Magnus Carlsen." But yeah, the bishop now comes out to pin the knight against the king, and now there is a threat against the e-pawn, and there we see the knight.
Hello everyone, an epic fight between Hikaru Nakamura and Caruana Fabiano at the FIDE Grand Swiss 2023 in round 10. Hikaru is white and play 1 e4. So now you can go on his channel or you can go on the main FIDE website, but this fight was epic, and here the best recap of the game. So now they play a Scotch here, and on move number 4, you could play a4, you could play g3, but Hikaru plays g4, the principal move. So they go into the main line, and they both have played this position many times. Castle, castle.
It would show Caruana that he's missed something. Yes. He now delves into thought after giving up his extra pawn.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept, actually, about like when to think and when not to think so much, because I think I was told that there were some instances in Blitz when the player can't find a resource, is thinking, and so what they do is they just literally press their own clock without having made a move. Yeah. The opponent stops it, calls over the arbiter, there's some discussion going on, but the player is thinking about what to do. And in those 2-3 minutes, they can figure out a resource.
Exactly. That's why there was some debate a while ago about in Blitz and Rapid making an illegal move. Does it end the game immediately, or does it just give the opponent one extra minute? Because actually, if you make an illegal move, it's actually good for you. You get more time to think.
Exactly.
You get more bearings over the position. But meanwhile, this one, Rook d7, at the moment looks most tempting from our point of view.
Game that I was aware of in this position after queen g3, but I think that game had f6. But the important thing about that game was, I think it was f6, bishop h6, rook f7, rook d6, rook e8, and then a4. And so, I mean, I kind of knew this idea from this position. So then when Fabi played king h8, I was still sort of able to play the same way.
Actually, how do you assess that position? Do you feel white has a little...
I mean, it's a draw with perfect play, but the queen is kind of offsides, very similar to my game today. And with the queen being a little bit offsides on a5, I think if anyone's better, it's white. So, I mean, again, with perfect play, black should draw, but there are some practical issues. But yeah, in the game, I think right here already, Fabi needed to play queen a6 immediately. I think he sort of underestimated this whole a4 rook d6 idea. I think if he goes queen a6, queen c4, he's still very much in the game, probably should draw. But I think as soon as he plays rook e8, rook d6, and I get this setup, it's very tricky for black already. And I think it's almost too late, because now the queen is stuck. You can never go queen c7, because then I have rook takes e6, queen g3, and I just trade the rooks and fg3, and I simply win the game because I have an extra bishop here. And so I think it's already very tricky for black. And I think Fabiano went wrong immediately with h6. I think here maybe he had rook a b8 possibly to try to go for rook b2. But again, I mean, it's very messy for black. And again, for Fabiano, he's obviously very confused at this point, because, I mean, it looks like a very dry position, but the queen on a5 is just really out of play.
Were you kind of surprised yourself in the game at how quickly things took a turn for the worse for Fabi?
I mean, as soon as I got rook d6, I realized he was going to have problems. I mean, I expect him to go queen a6, but I think Fabi also just assumed it was very easy, no risk, no danger. Because I mean, if you look at the position optically, like somewhere like around here, it looks like the only plan for white is to go for some h4, h5. That really looks like the only idea, but I'm positionally dominating the queen here on a5 instead. And so I always have h4, h5 later, but I don't have to go for it right away. And I think already here it's very dangerous because Fabi wanted to go rook d8, which there are two problems. First one is that I think bishop e5 and f6, which Fabi and I were discussing, with rook b1, and then rook b7 maybe is already very, very, very good for white. This is number one. But even here, I also can go for rook c6, trying to trap the queen with bishop c7. And I mean, all these lines are very, 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 very shaky for black. And I mean, what Fabiano did instead, I think, was maybe even worse in a way because it didn't clarify anything.
G3, but Hikaru plays G4, the principal move. So they go into the main line, and they both have played this position many times. Castle, castle. Here, interestingly, David Howell says, well, if black wants to draw, bishop G4 is a nice move, because then with white, you have to play F3, bishop H5, and black is fine. Now, however, here, Caruana plays CD5, right? So here very quickly, Hikaru has prepared H3. He played all these moves right away. He's into his prep. Now, interestingly, on chess.com, I know that Fabiano Caruana has played C5 and Nepomniachtchi with white played bishop G5, and the game continues like that. So both players know the theory here. And in that game, Caruana played c4, and he actually drew the game against Nepomniachtchi. That was played this year online. But here, instead of playing directly c5, Caruana introduces a twist and play bishop e6. Now, you could of course play bishop g5, but instead, Hikaru plays queen f3. And only now, c5 is played by black. So in here, Hikaru with white plays the very interesting move rook g1. And in this move order, if black were to try c4, it doesn't work anymore because you can do bishop takes c4 because of the pin. Very interesting subtleties. So instead here, black could try to play h6, and here you could play the knight on e2, and eventually the knight comes back to f4. But instead, Caruana exchanges, Hikaru takes back, queen e7, and here, right away, without spending any time on the position, Hikaru is still in his prep and play bishop g5. He obviously wants to take on f6. After 9 seconds, Caruana moves his knight, and they play right away. In this position, very interesting. You don't want to take the pawn. Queen g3, you have a threat of bishop h6. So Caruana plays king h8. And in here, we'll move 17. And Hikaru Nakamura has prepared this position. And is already in non-territory, despite the novelties by Caruana, and he plays a4. And as you can check in his own video, what is the idea of a4? The idea of a4 is not to protect a2. Obviously, he doesn't care if black would capture. What he doesn't want, and let's say that I play a different move, like king h1. He doesn't want black to play queen a4, queen c4, and the queen is coming back into play. By playing a4, he's just realizing that that queen here has no square to go to. Cannot go this way, cannot go here, cannot go back on c7 because of our queen over here, cannot go back on d8 because of our bishop over here. So if you look very carefully after a4, the queen is stranded. That's exactly the idea. We have opposite bishops, so it's a drawish kind of position. However, the queen on a5 is not as well placed as the queen on g3, which could target the king. So the game goes on, and here, as Hikaru mentioned, he plays only after 3 minutes because he kind of knows what the position is, rook d6. And what is the idea? Once again, queen a6 was a move, but now the queen has nowhere to go, right? Nowhere to go. This is protected by the queen. So over here, the queen on a5 has no potential future, stranded right now, and then black cannot play rook d8, so the d file belongs to the white pieces. So maybe the best move would be f6, and then you play bishop d2, and then only now you're trying to play rook d8. But instead, over here, after rook d6, after 6 minutes, Caruana play h6. After only 1 minute and 45 seconds, and that's very important, Hikaru is putting pressure on time on the clock, bishop f4. This is a very difficult position because white controls the d file, and the queen here, as I said, doesn't have a quick way to enter into the game. Maybe here the best move was c4, and if you play rook a d1, you play queen h5, trying to come back in the game. You may say, well, why not taking on a4? Then bishop e5, return checkmate on g7, f6 only move, you sack, queen g6, and you have a winning position over here. But in this position, c4 was the last attempt to bring that queen back into play. Caruana plays rook e7. And only now is Hikaru trying to find the move by himself. He knew about a a4 kind of move before the game. He knew about rook d6. Now he has to think for himself. And after 15 minutes, so a serious thing, he played queen e3, centralizing the queen. Rook c8 is played, that's another mistake. Black had to play something like king g8 or rook e8, but rook c8 is a mistake. This is white to play. Feel free to pause the video, and I'm going to reveal the answer. Actually, here you have two moves. You could play bishop e5, that's an excellent move because you're threatening queen take h6, followed by checkmate. And if the king moves, boom, check. And if the king moves like that, queen g3, look at this move. Now you have a threat over here, and white is in excellent shape. But in this position, Hikaru sacks over here. Now in the game, f6 is played. What if black captures? You give a check. And now what? Well, Hikaru in the interview played queen g5 and queen f6, which is winning. You're threatening to checkmate in one move, and let's say on rook e8, rook e1, and you have a lot of threats. Black is busted. But over here, you can also play rook e1 with the idea of queen c3, you play rook e3, rook g3, and the king is in terrible danger. So here, obviously, black cannot take the bishop. Hikaru grabs another pawn, and the game continues. Rook d8. Once again, can you take the bishop on g6? No, you can't. Check. And you have a threat here, threatening here and there. And if bishop f7, you do not take the bishop because black will try to do a counterattack. You give a check. And here, the rook lift. If the queen move, your next move is rook g3. And if the queen comes here, No problem, king h2, and on check, I suppose rook g3, and black is busted. All about the black king. So in this position, we know that black cannot take here, and white has a great position. Bishop g8, good defense, and here queen h4. Now the question is, not playing the game, but what happened if black captured the bishop? Once again, we exchange the rooks, and here rook d7, threatening checkmate, checkmate. So you try to do a check with black, and you try to do rook e7, boom. Winning. So clearly here, queen h4, black cannot take the bishop, black is in trouble. Caruana takes on c2, and here, beautiful move, rook g3, and the queen cannot come back to the rescue. The entire game is played with the main idea that the queen, which was on a5 and now on c2, cannot defend the king, while the white queen was on g3 and on h4, threatening the king. And now, beautiful geometry. After 9 minutes, rook d7, excellent move. Once again, you cannot take on h6. Black is busted. g5, only defense. Queen g3. And here, Hikaru goes for the finish. He takes on e7. Black takes like that. And what do you do now? Well, you know that g7, g5 weaken the position. So queen c7, devastating threat on the 7th rank. So here, if you try rook c8 to attack the queen, feel free to pause the video. What would white play here? And the answer is rook e8 check, followed by a nice checkmate over here. So over here, black is lost. There's actually no move. If you try rook g8, simply bishop g7, you get the picture. So black has to exchange the queens, but the endgame is lost at that level. Over here, we go in a bishop endgame. Now these are opposite color bishop, but white has too many pawns to win, and after f3, very important, you don't damage your structure. The g4 played in 2 seconds, and after c4, king g3, bishop e4, bishop d2. And now black resigned because you're gonna move the king, push your pawns, and win. You're gonna put your a4 pawn on the dark square, and you have a very easy win. I'm gonna just show quickly. That will be a variations, and like that, you're gonna push h7, h8, and you're winning. So on bishop d2, black to the tower. So I think it was an amazing game because it was very important for Hikaru, who has the best chances now to qualify for the candidates. Caruana is already qualified. So Hikaru gonna secure his spot either in the Grand Swiss or by rating. And I think that this was a game about one idea and one only. The queen on a5 is stranded, and over here we can see that the black king is gonna go under attack, and the black queen cannot go back in the game because of that rook, and was absolutely not there in the entire game. So small nuances here. Opposite color bishops tend to be drawish and to give like a lot of draws, but here Hikaru had excellent opening preparations. He knew he would have an edge, and then he played very confidently and put the pressure on Caruana, who's second best ready player in the world, and deserved that win. So I think from beginning to finish, it was a very good game by Hikaru, and Caruana, had to be a little bit more precise in his prep with the black pieces against such a strong opponent. So there's one more game tomorrow, so who knows, Vidit, is also in the lead. Esipenko is also in the lead with Hikaru. So Hikaru hasn't secured his spot, but he's probably going to go for a draw tomorrow and try to finish either number 1 or number 2. That will secure his spot in the next candidates tournament. So that's what's going on in the Isle of Man. I hope you enjoy this recap. Try to explain the ideas. Feel free to drop your comments and likes and subscribe if you haven't done so. And I'll see you in the next one.